What is up, y'all? Welcome to one of the first live streams that I'm ever doing. Welcome, y'all. Today we're going to get into some really important topics. Really excited to go over it. Some crazy stuff going on, y'all. Some crazy stuff going on around the country, especially in this last week. There was the killing of a U.S. citizen by an ICE agent. They've identified who it was, and there's a big debate online on whether it's murder, whether it's not murder because it was in self-defense. A lot of stuff to talk about there. Another topic that we want to get into is Zoran Mamdani delivers on universal childcare. I was just talking about the other week that it's going to really be important on whether Zoran could actually deliver on his promises or if he could, will kind of fulfill that stereotype that the left can't govern. But so far, it looks like he's going to actually do it and get universal childcare done, one of his first planks that he ran on. And then finally, we're going to end off on talking about a cultural ambassador who really has been transforming not only the way live streaming is going, but also the way the world views countries around the world. So really excited to get into it with y'all. Let's start off with over here with not that. Let's start off over here with Zoran Mamdani. Breaking news that Zoran, partnering with Governor Kathy Hochul, is partnering with Zoran. So Governor Kathy Hochul is partnering with Mayor Zoran Mamdani, and they will unveil a plan to expand free or affordable childcare for New Yorkers across the state, with an emphasis on actually funding Zoran Mamdani's pilot program for 2 years in the city of New York to fund childcare for 2-year-olds, I believe. So that is incredible. Already, a few days into his administration, he's already getting a big win for this the state of New York, and the city of New York. Let's look at the press conference. Zoran Mamdani, childcare. Let's see. If we could find something. Look, the state of the state investments will commit to delivering affordable childcare for nearly 100,000 more kids, make pre-K truly universal statewide, partner with New York City to launch the new mayor's signature 2Care program, and finally realize the promise of universal 3K access in New York City. Huge win just a few days into the Mamdani administration. This is awesome, y'all, because around the country, people, whether we like it or not, are looking at Zoran to see, can he actually deliver? Can he actually fulfill the promises that he ran on? Or is he just another crazy, progressive lefty who talks a big game but can't deliver? This is the big question that everybody around the country is asking. And so far, it looks like he's delivering, beginning just a few days in on delivering on his promise of universal childcare in New York City. So we love to see it, especially in a time when things are very, very, difficult around the country. To see a win that helps working families is great to see. But there is something kind of interesting about kind of what we saw in New York here. So here's a video that's really funny. So the right is actually framing expanding childcare for families as a bad thing and something to ridicule, which I'm all for. If you guys are going to ridicule this, then you guys are just shooting yourself in the foot, because this is a policy that the overwhelming amount of people and Americans believe in. So let's see what End Wokeness tweeted about. So Governor Hochul is saying New York childcare spending for this year will be expanded to $4.5 billion. Let's see. Let's watch this.
This year we're committing an additional $1.7 billion in what we call recurring spending, something my budget director hates, but meaning we're committed. And so that means our total childcare investment this year will be $4.5 billion in the state of New York. So we're in there. This year we're...
So they're tweeting this. The right is tweeting this, mocking it, saying, it's crazy that they're expanding spending on childcare. My opinion is, look, of course, it's tough when you see the government spending so much money, spending billions of dollars, trillions of dollars, taking your tax dollars. There's not much I'd rather, my money go to other than childcare, healthcare, funding other social services that tangibly help families, especially young families. Like, what else would I want my tax dollars spent on? Not on intervention overseas, not on bloated bureaucracy, not on the military budget. I want my tax dollars, if I'm gonna have to pay taxes, I want that going to help a family fund childcare, or to help a family pay for their healthcare costs. I think if there's anything I want my taxes spent on, it would be that. So look, the right, if y'all want to defend or attack spending more money on childcare, be my guest. Yeah, and see how that works out for you in the next few years. So a huge win by Zoran Mamdani, expanding childcare in not only the state of New York, but actually the city of New York. We love to see it. We love to see it. And over here, this really something interesting I also wanted to touch on. So Daniel over here tweets, the power of left politics today. Mamdani's argument for universalism has gone from controversy to common sense in only about 2 months. So here's a quote here, I think I think it's a New York Times article. There are political reasons that many experts and politicians support universal childcare programs over means-tested ones. When middle-class families, and not just poorer ones, are invested in government programs, they're more likely to push their elected officials to maintain and eventually increase funding for those services. This is what people on the left have been saying for years, y'all. This is what they have been saying for years. Push for universal programs, not means-tested ones, for multiple reasons. One, it's less overhead cost because you don't, have to spend money and time and effort kind of administering, the means-tested program and saying, okay, who do we deliver this to? Who do we not deliver it to? Whereas universal programs, you save some money and effort on that end, but also there's more political buy-in. A lot of people view social services that are means-tested as something that is kind of a right-wing kind of way of thinking, as that's helping people who don't work as hard, or it creates leeches, and that's not going to be me. So therefore, if I'm not going to get the help, I don't want other people getting the help. It's kind of that that kind of right-wing myth. But when you have universal programs that are for everybody, everybody feels bought into it. People who are, struggling a little more feel less shame using the services for all these reasons. And then, of course, the political buy-in, it's less likely to be voted down over time and to have their funding slashed. If, in fact, it's actually the opposite that happens, for universal programs, there's actually a higher likelihood of it being increased and continued in the future because everybody feels invested and everybody feels the benefits of it. So again, Mamdani already changing the whole paradigm and the whole like political paradigm that we view policies as, whereas before, just a few months ago, people were not really thinking about universal programs in this way. Of course, they would just say it costs too much, and we're going to be helping rich kids and stuff like that. But now people are finally realizing the value of universal programs over means tested ones for various reasons, multiple reasons that we just went over. Love to see that. And then finally, okay, so that's it with the Zoran. That's it with the Zoran coverage. Of course, we're very happy to see the success in New York City with Zoran. We wish him the best. We hope that he continues to deliver on his program and continue his support and fight for working families in New York, so that the rest of the country could be inspired by him. But now we have to get into something that is a little darker, a little more negative. So sadly, earlier this week, there was a young mother, actually a U.S. citizen, woman in Minneapolis, who was shot and killed, actually shot in the face multiple times by a federal agent. We were pretty sure it's an ICE agent. I think that the guy was identified recently. But we've seen, sadly, like a split in the reaction to what happened to this U.S. citizen. What we see is about half, the people reacting call this, an injustice, a tragedy. Many of them call it a murder because they look at the video and they see, an innocent woman driving away from, an ICE agent approaching her car, and she drives not to run him over, but we could see with our eyes that she turns the wheel, and we'll look at the video in a second. She turns the wheel to avoid the officer, and then, as she's driving away, the officer pulls his gun and shoots her in the face 3 times and kills her instantly. And then there was a doctor on scene, and the agents didn't allow the doctor to go administer aid. So we see that, and we're enraged, us, about half the country. The other half of the country views this as something that's not enraging at all. And in fact, they view the officer as the victim in the scenario, that he got touched by the car, and it was completely in his, not only legal right, but also moral right, to pull out his gun and to shoot her in the face 3 times. This is what we've seen, not only, people on the right, argue, but also the highest government officials in our country argue. Not only President Donald Trump, but J.D. Vance and Kristi Noem continuously are saying that this was actually an act of terrorism on the woman's part, not the ICE agent who murdered a U.S. citizen on the street. The terrorist in this occurrence was the lady driving, according to Trump, Kristi Noem, and J.D. Vance. So let's read and react to some of this. So over here we see a tweet saying, "This is a dividing line for Americans. If you think a 37-year-old U.S. citizen mom, legal observer, deserves a bullet to the head from some masked federal Gestapo, you are just beyond the pale. I don't recognize you as a good faith actor, someone whose opinion is worth a damn." So I agree with everything, from here. Down here, when she says, or when he says, I don't know what gender they are. I don't recognize you as a good faith actor, someone whose opinion is worth a damn. That's where I disagree, because I do think the two sides are living in two different realities. If you're on the right, the kind of information you're given is that the car hit the officer, and that the officer is in his legal right in self-defense to shoot the lady. And they genuinely believe this. I don't think they're bad actors. I think they're just genuinely viewing this in like a different reality that the other side is. I think one side is right. I think the side that views this as an injustice and as a murder is correct. But it would be too far for me to say that they're completely bad actors. But I agree with the sentiment of the tweet. And this is what I was saying. Kristi Noem this is literally hours after, the lady got shot, the U.S. citizen got shot. This is what she says. Let's listen.
You asked about a shooting that we just had in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It was an act of domestic terrorism. What happened, it was our ICE officers were out in an enforcement action. They got stuck in the snow because of the adverse weather that is in Minneapolis. They were attempting to push out their vehicle, and a woman attacked them and those surrounding them and attempted to run them over and ram them.
So this is unbelievable. This is unbelievable, guys. Kristi Noem, a few hours after the lady gets shot, calls her a domestic terrorist, and lies, saying that the woman attempted to run them over and ram them with her vehicle. When we just got body cam footage of what actually happened in that moment, let's look at it. And you could see, and you could hear what they actually said. Let's see. But listen closely. Did you hear what she says? She says, "That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you." Does that sound like a domestic terrorist who's trying to ram her car into someone? Okay, let's continue.
Show your face. I'm not mad at you. That's okay.
Again, she says, "I'm not mad at you."
We don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former fucking veteran. You want to come at us? You want to come
And
at us?
over here, watch the video
I say
closely.
go get yourself some lunch. Big boy. Go ahead. Out of the car. Get out of the fucking car.
So look, you're going to see her turn her wheel, and this is from the perspective of the ICE agent. So let's see if here, watch and see if you see her turn her wheel. Look right there. You see her turn her wheel to move around the officer, not ram into the officer. Here, I'm going to replay it one more time, and I'll do it in slow motion. Playback speed, let's do 0.5. Look over here. You see her move her wheel? Driving around, and then there he gets nervous, and let's see, and then you hear the gunshots, and you hear the screaming, and then you're gonna hear the car because she's shot, she's dead, she rams in there. So with after just seeing that, hearing her say, "I'm not upset at you," and then driving away, and then watching her move her wheel, to go around the officer, does that look like a domestic terrorist to you? Does that look like an act of terrorism by the lady, or does it look like an act of terrorism by the ICE officer? That's all I got to say. So let's see. And then I don't think it captures it in this video, but he actually calls her an effing B word after he shoots her. So unbelievable stuff. Unbelievable stuff.
Raid.
And then this video, guys, is actually even almost crazier. So this is someone who is in Minneapolis, just hours after she got shot, and he's a Trump supporter. And let's see, he finally admits it. This is a mask off moment. Let's see.
The storm is here. When we come, one, we go all. No one can stop what is coming. Get here, guys. We need you in Minnesota. These people are fucking terrorists.
Patriots, get out of here. We need the backup. And all you liberal commie motherfuckers, keep your hands to yourself, or you're gonna get hurt today, alright? We executed one of you yesterday.
We executed one of you yesterday. It's a mask off moment.
We executed one of you yesterday. You understand that?
He says it again.
We executed one of you yesterday.
Look, I mean, he's saying it out loud. He's not hiding it. He's saying we executed one of you yesterday. And look, I'm not saying all right-wingers, are in agreement with the statement, but he is being honest in this moment in what he thinks. He's not hiding it. He's not saying, this wasn't an execution. The officer was, in his complete legal right to do this. He's saying it, and he's almost proud of it. So unbelievable stuff, guys. Unbelievable stuff. And over here, this is someone who's running for Congress, Kat Abu Ghazaleh. And she's talking about kind of her opinions on how ICE should be viewed in this time.
Let's talk about what happened with ICE in Minneapolis. And by that I mean ICE murdering a woman in cold blood and broad daylight. My name is Kat Abu Ghazaleh. I'm running for Congress in the 9th District of Illinois. Let's talk about what happened with ICE in Minneapolis. And by that I mean ICE murdering a woman in cold blood and broad daylight. My name is Kat Abu Ghazaleh. I'm running for Congress in the 9th District of Illinois, and I believe abolishing ICE is both a moral and legal imperative for the United States. And I think what happened in Minneapolis shows exactly that. If you haven't seen the video...
People think ICE is something that's been around for decades. I mean, I'm older than ICE, I'm pretty sure ICE was, when was ICE formed? 2003. I was born in 2002. Look, I'm older than this agency. And look, we had immigration enforcement before that. But this is right now a rogue agency that doesn't believe in the law, and they're masked. They have very little, oversight over it. So look, abolishing ICE is not a radical, viewpoint anymore.
Essentially what happened is imperative for the United States. And I think what happened in Minneapolis shows exactly that. If you haven't seen the video, essentially what happens, a woman is trying to drive away from ICE while they are in a neighborhood, and an officer goes to her window and shoots her in the head. This woman, Renee Good, is a mother of 3 children. She didn't belong to any ICE protest groups. She was in the wrong place at the wrong time. The right jumped onto this.
The one thing I want to say is, I want to second that she was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And look, Renee Good could be any one of us driving, away from our house, and we see one of our neighbors getting, detained by... I guess let me rephrase it. Look, one thing I want to say is Renee Good, she was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and this could happen to any of us, what happened to her. She was, driving out of her house. She wasn't part of any protest group. She saw, immigration enforcement happening in her neighbor's house, and she's driving away. She, is asking the officer, waving their cars through, and then she sees an officer running at her car, so she drives away, which seems like a very normal thing to do, that a lot of people would do, that, maybe one of you guys watching would do, and because of that, she got shot in the face 3 times. I want you to think. Because for me, I've been at, multiple, spaces where legal observers are there watching and making sure that immigration enforcement is following the law, not interfering, but making sure they're following the law. And, I just think to myself, that could have been me, what happened to her. And that could be any of my neighbors watching, or just literally anybody, any innocent person driving out of their house, driving in their neighborhood, going to pick up a kid from school. And then that happens to you just because, when someone's running at you, you try to drive away and try to move away. So it's unbelievable stuff, guys. And I think What's even crazier is, imagine, this happened to you, that you're in your home and you're driving away just in your neighborhood, and you see, immigration enforcement, activity happening in your neighborhood, and you're driving away, you get shot 3 times, and immediately half an hour after you get shot, the government comes out, some of the top officials in our government, and calls you a domestic terrorist when you're not part of any protest group. You just got shot in the face 3 times and killed, and your government, immediately calls you a domestic terrorist. Look, if they said, we're going to do an investigation, we're going to look into this, still would have been terrible, but would have been much, much less terrible compared to what they actually did, calling her a radical, calling her a domestic terrorist. This is like some fascist stuff, guys. This is some scary stuff, not believing in the rule of law. Hopefully, this officer gets brought to justice. But I don't know if that's going to happen, especially in this administration, guys. But let's continue.
Incident, calling her a domestic terrorist pretty much immediately. Even the president jumped in and said the force was justified. They're wrong. And they're lying. Any government agency that can function as a paramilitary force for the president's will, as a secret police that goes into homes and tears families apart, murders civilians in broad daylight, should not be allowed to exist. This country existed before ICE. In fact, I am 4 years older than ICE. And it can exist without it again. This isn't the first time that ICE has shot someone in broad daylight and lied about it, or killed someone in broad daylight and lied about it. That's happened in Chicago already. So what do we do? Well, first off, we need accountability. I don't think Donald Trump wants to abolish ICE anytime soon, but that's why it's more important than ever to get involved in politics. Look at what's happening on the local, state, and federal level when it comes to your community. And if we can build a coalition in 2026 and 2028 and slow down this agenda as much as possible, we have a chance of building a big enough coalition to actually accomplish that goal. But abolishing ICE is the floor. We need trials. Kristi Noem, Tom Homan, Greg Bovino, Donald Trump, Stephen Miller, and anyone involved in this disgusting farce of justice needs to be held accountable. They have to answer to the American people. We can't just pretend this is some fever dream, and we certainly can't wait it out. We are at this point, not just with ICE, but with our affordability crisis, with our rights in disarray, because of half measures and ignoring reality by our leaders. And then we are also told that what we want is a pipe dream, that we're asking for too much. It is not too much to ask our country to not murder us, to not kill mothers and call them domestic terrorists, to not use force against anyone that disagrees with you. We don't want your racist terror agenda, and any Democrat should be willing to say the same. Abolish ICE, disband DHS, and justice for Renee Good.
Wow. Completely second all of that. And I think she really touches on an important point, that we need to do our best to stay involved and get involved if you're not involved right now. I know, guys, life is very busy and it's hard. It's a struggle just to pay the bills and stay alive and, manage your relationships and your family and your friends. And if you have kids, it's tough. And, adding anything on top of that just sounds like it's not worth your time. But to that, I say, you'd be surprised how much you could get done with a little bit of effort and with a small amount of people. I think there's that quote that the world is changed just by a small group of committed people. So all I ask is, let's try to get involved, in a small way. Let's try to start small. If you are kind of new to this world, look up local organizations, advocacy organizations, whether it's a nonprofit or a community organization that's doing work that you somewhat believe in, that your heart kind of draws you to. Just join, just maybe follow their Instagram page. Maybe if you don't even know any, just spend half an hour or 15 minutes Googling one and finding one near you and following their social media page and see what they're up to. And, over the following weeks, maybe they host an event and maybe you go to that event and maybe you go to another one. Start small, but in whatever capacity you can, we need you to be involved and make your opinion and voice heard. That's the only way these things are going to improve. Again, I know there's a lot of stuff going on probably in your life, and sometimes it feels like, it's not worth your time. Maybe it's like cringe or something, but I promise y'all, it's worth it, especially at the local level. You can make a big, big change. So I ask you to start small, and then over time, then you maybe want to take on, a little more responsibility in the organization. Maybe you want to start your own organization. Maybe you want to join a rapid response network. If you feel really passionately about helping your neighbors, your immigrant neighbors, and making sure that law enforcement, whether it's ICE or local police, are following the law, joining a rapid response network could help you get involved in that. So please, we need all of us to get involved and to keep each other safe. Because I think what if anything, has been proven to us in the last few months is that our government right now is not the one who's going to keep us safe. Our neighbors are going to keep us safe. We are going to keep each other safe. So again, I completely second that by Kat. And here's another clear video of her moving her wheel to show that he wasn't in danger. Just to pivot a little bit to something else. So, just this weekend, which it almost feels so long ago, the U.S., completed an illegal, action and military intervention in Venezuela, where over 100 people were killed and their president was illegally captured, kidnapped, and is now in New York, being charged with American crime. So very crazy stuff that happened. And now last night, this is what Trump says in an interview. Let's see.
We've knocked out 97% of the drugs coming in by water, and we are going to start now hitting land with regard to the cartels. The cartels are running Mexico. It's very, very sad to watch and see what's happened to that country, but the cartels are running, and they're killing 250, 300,000 people in our country every single year. The drugs, it's horrible. It's devastated families. You lose a child or a parent. I mean, parents are dying too with drugs. So we've done a really good job. We're knocking it down. The numbers are really getting to be, they're always going to be too high if you have one person, but they're going down just like the border. The border was a total mess for years. I did it the first time very quickly, and this time I did it even better because this was a bigger mess. This was a border like no other probably in the history of the world. There's never been a border like that when anybody could just walk into your country.
The border's ostensible.
So it's crazy, guys. I mean, my one response is, look, if you fell for, the lie, when he was campaigning that he's going to be the peace president, that he's not going to intervene in other countries, then, I mean, hopefully you're saying now that he played y'all. He played us. He said that he's, the opposition side is the war ticket, and that him and J.D. Vance are the peace ticket, that they're going to be America first, that they're not going to intervene in other countries. Look, they just, intervened in Venezuela. I think in 2025, they bombed like 5 countries. And now they want to invade our closest neighbor, Mexico, which is unbelievable. We'll see what happens with that. But it's crazy. It's crazy. And then to top it off, we would think that the opposition party would, be oppositional, right? And come out against this, say, this is crazy. We don't, the American people don't want us to be spending our money and effort and time in Mexico. We have a lot of stuff going on in our own country. But you could see what the leader of the Democratic Party is doing, hugging up with Marco Rubio. And if you guys don't know, Marco Rubio is the current Secretary of State, and Marco Rubio is behind all the intervention in Venezuela and now in Mexico. And look, Chuck Schumer smiling and laughing and hugging him. I don't know. If I was in there, if someone else was in there, and you think that, if you run into a war criminal, I don't know if laughing and hugging them is something that, would be smart. And even when, Zoran Mamdani, look, he went to the White House, he wasn't, I think that was the least, amount of smiles I've ever seen out of Mamdani when he went to the White House. And look, Schumer over here is hugging and smiling with Marco Rubio. And, not only that, but tactically, he's not even being, oppositional and opposing intervention in other countries, which is just crazy, unbelievable, guys. I want to end on a little more of a positive note. Over here is, I want to give a shout out to iShowSpeed. iShowSpeed, the streamer. This is unbelievable. The U.S. Embassy in Zambia tweeted out welcoming iShowSpeed to Zambia, saying digital platforms play an important role in how young people share culture, creativity, and ideas with global audiences. Enjoy your stay in Zambia, Darren. And then they do so. So it's crazy, y'all, that Speed in a few years went from an NBA 2K live streamer, an NBA 2K YouTuber. Shout out Speed, shout out my friend Power DF, another 2K YouTuber. He went from that, from a 2K YouTuber, which I think people underestimate. Like, there's a lot of culture that comes out of the NBA 2K community. He went from that to a worldwide cultural, political, global phenomenon. Look, U.S. Embassy, welcoming him, the official Twitter. Look at this.
Seriously,
I also want to shout out Speed for being, strong and bold on human rights around the country. This is even a few years ago when he was super young. Let's watch.
Yo, I just got this message from Chunks, bro. This is honestly insane for the stuff that's going around in Palestine, man. Seriously, prayers to y'all, and I'll be donating to y'all. This is making me sick to my stomach, bro. From the bottom of my heart, bro. If you're from Palestine, this is crazy. I love y'all boys. I will be donating to y'all, okay? I love every single one of y'all. And free Palestine, bro.
Look, this was a few years ago when he was still super young. And, to this day, he still holds his stance of really being bold and calling for a free Palestine. And then also other, global injustices. Look over here. This is him. This is here. Speed attempting to buy a $5 million rough diamond.
So these are very exceptional diamonds. Unfortunately, I can't tell you the price of these ones. I'd have to concur with my manager. How about like rough estimate? Rough estimate. These diamonds would be closer to between maybe 10 and 20. Between 5 and 3 million.
5 and 3 million?
US dollars.
What do you mean 5 and 3? You mean 3 to 5 million?
Yes, 3 to 5 million.
3 to 5 million?
Yes.
3 to 5 million.
Just one of these costs $3 million.
In US dollars, yeah.
One of these costs $3 million.
That's a rough estimate.
That's a rough estimate.
I just say.
We can't give you exact figures.
What?
Yeah.
That's just an estimate.
What?
Speed exposing it, God. Speed's exposing it.
That's basically 25 million.
Yeah. And like I'm saying,
What?
we notice anything different between all of these.
Different shapes?
Yeah. So, as a sorting house, what we do is we sell and buy.
I can't be.
We only sell rough to 2 customers.
Then maybe you can talk
Is that part of your contract? Y'all can only sell to those 2 customers.
That's part of the contract.
Okay.
And just to highlight, these are all natural.
He's doing it on purpose, y'all. He's doing it on purpose. He's showing it, y'all.
We have 4 miles. Well, we're less.
Good for Speed, y'all. Good for Speed. Over here, Speed is attempting to be a real Pan-African. He wants to spend his money on some rough diamonds straight from the motherland. He's not asking for a discount. He's willing to pay whatever. They refuse to sell because they need permission from the white man. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Look at this. Speed in Botswana learns he can't buy raw diamonds locally, even though it's the world's top producer. Locked into exclusive contracts, leaving one of the poorest local markets. Swipe for a shock reaction and massive rough stones worth millions. Is this fair resource control? What do you think? Exploitation or smart business? Let's see Speed exposing this.
Okay, what if I want to buy these? I want to buy one of these diamonds.
If you want to buy one of these diamonds,
Yeah, who do I talk to?
you'd have to talk to DPS or the site holders because we don't sell. We only have 2 customers.
But I can't be a customer. This is my first time in Botswana.
Speed exposing it, y'all.
Yes.
But these are rough.
Yeah, I know, but what if I want to buy a rough diamond?
No. We only sell rough to 2 customers.
Then maybe you can talk.
Is that part of your contract? Y'all can only sell to
Yes.
those 2 customers.
That's part of
He's exposing it, y'all. Shout out Speed. Shout out Speed.
And just to highlight, these are all natural diamonds. So we're selling the natural diamond stone. The natural diamond is forever. So these are from the ground, no synthetic, no diamond, no lab work. These are 100% natural diamonds.
From our 4 mines in Botswana. We have 4 mines.
Fair enough, chat.
That's crazy. Shout out Speed, showing what's going on overseas, but also showing the beauty of Africa. I think people are really appreciating Speed being like a cultural ambassador for countries around the world. He did South America. That was awesome. And also standing up for Palestine. And now having like an even crazier level of prominence with like official countries welcoming him. So it's unbelievable. Shout out Speed. Love his content. Inspiration to all of us. But with that, y'all, I'm going to call it the end of the stream. Hopefully y'all enjoyed. Hopefully y'all enjoyed learning. And then I'll see y'all in the next stream. Okay. All right.